Hello and welcome to another episode of the Firearms Insider Gun and Gear Review podcast. This is episode 53. On this show, we showcase gun reviews, gear, and anything else a gun enthusiast may be looking for. We strive to evaluate products from an unbiased and honest perspective. I'm your host, Ryan Cross from the Firearms Radio Network, your source for broadcasts for shooters, hunters, and gun enthusiasts. Bandwidth for this episode is brought to you by Action Target. Today I have with me listener brand new to the show. Welcome, Stephen.
Glad to be here.
And we have tried and true TJ joining us as well.
Hey Ryan, how you doing?
Doing good. So Stephen, how long have you been listening to the show?
I've been listening to the show for actually since it first started, and at first was kind of like about it, but kept listening. And it's gotten better over the years. So one of my favorite podcasts now to listen to. My wife hates it because it makes me want to spend money.
Well, I appreciate that. So it's actually, I forgot to mention on the last show, the last show was episode 52, 52 weeks in a year, which means that we've hit our 1-year anniversary. So happy Cake Day to everybody.
Got a candle for you there, Ryan.
Nice.
Ryan,
Birthday candle for you.
I assume that cake will be in the mail?
Yeah, I should have one of those Burger King like paper crowns on right now.
There you go.
Of course, it's not just my effort because I joined on actually like episode 7 or 8. So Devin gets a big congratulations and pat on the back because he was the host from the start. So
Yeah, it's kind of his idea, I suppose.
yeah, and of course, big thanks to our editor and producer because I don't want to do the editing and he does it, and that's awesome. So. Anyway, let's get right into the announcements. Obviously, covered the anniversary. We covered our new guest who will be winning an engraved product from magplates.com. So we're looking forward to figuring out what Stephen wants. We're still plugging the Forest City Tactical promo that Nick brought on the show last episode. And it's only good till the end of this week, so October 24th. So if you use the code GGR10, that's Golf Romeo 10 during the checkout on forestcitytactical.com, you can get 10% off your order. And they make some pretty awesome Kydex holsters in different colors and configurations. So make sure you check those out. Nick pretty much loves Forest City.
From what I know of him, he does great work. He's really detail oriented, where some manufacturers just are slap and go. So
yeah, there's a lot of craftsmanship that the edges are hand rounded, to make sure there's no rough edges or anything. And if it doesn't meet his specs, he tosses it in the junk bin and he starts over. So
Yeah, they talked about crappy holster makers on the latest episode of Practac with what was his name again from Forest City?
I forget.
I guess it's not important. But anyways, he was the owner of there was on there, and they kind of stressed the fact that there's a lot of people that make kind of sandwich. They're just like making a sandwich rather than making a holster, and then what Forest City does is really pay attention to detail and make sure that nothing's going to snag up and block your gun from getting out. So looks like pretty cool holsters.
TJ, you just gave me a great idea. Someone needs to make me a sandwich holster, and I will test that out.
I'm not sure if it's him, but I know somebody makes a skull can holster, so I'm sure it can be done.
I don't chew, but I love my sandwiches. So make that happen.
I actually had an idea this past week to make some Kydex shot glasses. I'm not entirely sure if they're food safe, but I think I might be trying that just for grins.
There you go.
Or at least they can hold your shot glasses.
Yeah, there you go. A koozie. Shot glass koozie.
So then we also did the Facebook Firearms Insider Facebook giveaway last week, where we asked a trivia question, and the first person to answer it right gets to win some Grip Force adapters for Glock's Gens 1, 2, and 3. Basically puts a beaver tail on your Glock, makes it somewhat more of a kind of a 1911 almost, where you can get your hand really high up toward the bore and control recoil a little bit more, and it adds a little bit of tactical flair to your Glock. So actually we have a winner, and the winner is Donald Plyler, and he answered first. The question was, Glock uses Tenefer on the barrel and slides of their pistols. It's a very hard finish and is used for its corrosion resistance. What's the Rockwell hardness for this finish as used by Glock? And Donald answered 64 HRC. So he wins. So I'll be getting a hold of Donald and shipping off that Grip Force adapter to him. So congratulations. That Brownells October giveaway, is that still going on where they're trying to go away a Glock 42? Yeah, it is actually. So that ends on the 28th this month. So you have by next Tuesday to enter, either on their Facebook or their website. And I'll keep a link in the show notes where you can click on that and get to the sweepstakes flyer. Basically, they're giving away a Glock 42 with some Hornady gear, a rapid safe, and some holsters, and some ammunition. You both entered for that, right?
Oh yeah.
Yeah, I definitely did. After I sent you the link, I went ahead and entered that. It looks like they have a flashlight on their promo picture too, so you might even get a flashlight out of the deal too. It says valued at $1,000. So.
Yeah, I saw that up on my Facebook page and entered it right away because I figured, hey, what's the harm?
Can't beat free stuff. I actually had a mini heart attack. Was it this morning? I think I sent Ryan a message. I saw on Smith & Wesson's Facebook page. They said, "Congratulations, Thomas G." And I read a little further, and it said, "From Georgia." And I'm like, dang it, I'm not from Georgia. It's my name, but I'm not from Georgia. Because they were giving away a M&P compact, I think.
Just imagine how many Thomas G's from Georgia applied and had all respective heart attacks.
Yeah, imagine.
Of course, I'll have a heart attack if I win because I live in California. So 42 is, of course, is a not California safe firearm. So see what they do.
I wonder how they handle that. Just send you $1,000 maybe.
Maybe. Or just the value of the gun and then all the other stuff that goes with it.
Yeah.
Put a really long barrel on it and make it single shot.
Yeah, I've got till the end of the year to do that, and then the wonderful politicians got rid of that in California. So.
Yep, 9-inch barrel on a Glock 42. That would be pretty interesting.
I think it'd give the 380 some ballistic advantage.
Actually, Ruger. I've heard that Ruger makes a Canadian version of the LCP, which is like a 4 1/4-inch barrel, I think, to keep it legal. So I haven't seen pictures of it or anything, but it's definitely pretty interesting.
Yeah, I've heard about that too.
I imagine it probably looks like an old P38 Walther or something like that, with the barrel just poking way out past the slide.
Right on. So let's get into the new products this week. And first up, Aimpoint releases yet another product. And instead of being of a higher price point like most of their products, this one is specifically designed to be more economical for us poor blue-collar workers. So, and it's called the Aimpoint Carbine Optic, so the ACO. And it's designed to go on modern sporting rifles such as the AR-15. What do you guys think about this?
Well, I think it's definitely something that's needed because right now, really, there's Vortex with the Crossfire and the Spark that's out there, and then you get up and you start spending a lot more money for a high-quality optic.
Yeah, it's kind of it fills a middle ground niche, I guess you could say, because like you said, it goes from 200 to 600. It's a big jump between the budget and the real good stuff. So I think it's nice to have a good budget option of a more reputable brand. And hopefully, what Aimpoint didn't do is just shop it out and subcontract out to some Chinese company just to make a garbage optic that with the Aimpoint name. But I don't imagine they would do that because I think that would kind of possibly sully their name. So hopefully it works out, and we'll wait for some people to get a hold of it and see what it's like.
Yeah, hopefully it's not an NC Star rebranded.
Yeah, that would be terrible. You spend $400 on a $20 optic. But
yeah, I'm not a huge fan of the mount that it comes with. It looks like it's pretty inexpensive to produce and kind of thin. But it is a 30 millimeter aluminum tube, so supposedly you might be able to just swap it out with other like 30 millimeter rings that are like cantilever mounts, or just maybe a single ring.
Yeah, I think. I mean, I'm sure Aimpoint's even got some other options for. It's kind of the form factor of I forget the name. Is it the Pro, the Aimpoint Pro, which is their larger red dot? But it's kind of that same size and all. So I imagine the rings would work perfectly with that. One thing I do like is that it's designed to co-witness, like an absolute co-witness with the backup sights, so that way you're not. Personally, I prefer that, the absolute co-witness than the lower third, because it just seems, I don't know, I just prefer it better. So I like that they made it like that rather than the lower third.
Yeah, and it looks like they're supplying it with a lot of available accessories with like flash kills and all that fun stuff. So if you really want to tactical it out.
Yeah, all the goodies. So it's got a 2 MOA red dot, which I'd say is a really good dot size if you want to, be shooting groups, at between 75, 100 yards or even further. Aim small, miss small, and a 4 MOA or 6 MOA dot really blocks a lot of the target past 100 yards, so you can't really see, the part of the target you want to hit. You're kind of covering it up, and that kind of robs you of some accuracy potential.
Yeah, I'm glad that they decided to do that 2 MO dot. I noticed a lot of the more budget companies, they'll go with a 4 or 6 MOA dot, and it's just kind of big for, like you said, for distance. Another feature is that it says the battery time is 1 year constant on, so that's pretty awesome. You could just turn it on. If you have your home defense AR, you just turn it on, or a patrol rifle even. Just turn it on, leave it in the rack, leave it in your safe or the corner of your bedroom, and you don't have to worry about turning it on in the middle of the night when you absolutely need it. You can just leave it on and replace it every year.
Yeah, especially seeing how it's a 1/3N battery. It's not like it's a 123A or something that's highly common.
Yeah, I'm not familiar with that 13N.
No, neither am I, so it might take some work to find, so it's good that you've got a year to find it.
They have a little, yeah, they have a little tube on the side. I'm not sure, is that the battery tube?
It looks like it. It's hard to tell, though, from the picture.
Yeah. So I'm not sure if that's a battery tube or serves some other function, but so it might be like a tube-style battery like the 123, just a smaller one.
Yeah, I think it's the spare battery holder.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, I think it's a pretty nice option. A lot of people are going to turn to that haven't been able to get into an Aimpoint product because the price point. Now finally they'll be able to. I think that if you were to choose between this and like the Strike Fire from Vortex, I like the simplicity of the design and just the overall body of the Aimpoint. I kind of like a lot better. The Strike Fire is kind of, it seems like it's bigger, but it serves the same function as far as the dot. So I think this might be a more attractive offering to put on your AR-15 or anything else. It could go on your shotgun for your slugs or any kind of carbine.
Yeah, I know. I've got the Vortex on my Beowulf upper, and I love it. It's a great optic. I was able to save some money so I could buy some more Beowulf ammo.
Yeah.
You need plenty of money for that, huh?
Yeah.
So make sure you go on over to aimpoint.com's website to keep an eye on that carbine optic and when that's available for buying. They've got a press release on right now on their front page you can download. So next up is actually I don't know if I did. $393 is the MSRP on that.
Right,
street price.
Sure, get that out there.
Yeah, street price probably looking at closer to 300. Hopefully.
Yeah, that'd be real nice. Get them in the low threes at least, and definitely make it a really attractive option.
Yeah. So next up we have a new 1911 from Browning. which carries John Browning's name, so 1911's got to be great, right? This one's actually chambered in 380, so a lot of people have a lot to say about that, of good old 45 Warhorse being chambered in 380. What do you guys think?
Yeah,
I think it's a pretty cool option. A friend of mine had his father-in-law was a gunsmith, and he had whenever he passed away, he had they just had a bunch of guns in their garage shed that they didn't know what to do with. So I went over, took a look at some of his guns, and he had a Llama 380, which is basically a scaled down 1911, and I really liked the size of it and everything. It was a piece of junk anyways. That wouldn't. I'm pretty sure it was in multiple pieces, so I didn't try to get it off his hands or anything. But I definitely like the form of it, and this seems to be basically exactly the same dimensions as that, except it's got a longer barrel. The only problem I'm seeing is this kind of long barrel maybe makes it a little awkward for carry, but for range shooting it would probably be pretty nice.
Yeah, I'm not a big 380 fan, especially with the whole big 380 craze right now. It's like you could get basically the same size function with a 9mm, and then 1911. I'm a Glock guy, so this doesn't really float my boat too much. With the longer barrel, though, you get the better muzzle velocity, and unless you're carrying like underarm, cross draw, Miami Vice style, the barrel just kind of sits down your pant leg. So I've actually managed to carry my Glock 35 once, and it just was slightly awkward because it's that really long slide, but other than that, works great.
Yeah, I'm not sure if we mentioned it's not a full-size 1911. It's I think it's like 80% size of a full-size 1911. It's the same. It looks exactly the same size, but it's just because they took it and scaled it down, and cut 20% off of it, so it looks full size if you're just looking at a picture with no reference. But they have a picture of it laid over a full-size 1911, and you can see that it definitely is much smaller. I think it holds 7 rounds in the magazine, so if that gives you any kind of idea on size, maybe if you think LC9 size with its 7-round 9mm magazine, it's probably pretty comparable, just a slightly longer barrel.
Yeah, one of the things I was noticing as I was scrolling through the page, a lot of their pictures have female shooters. I wonder if they're trying to market straight to the ladies with this more than the guys, because of that smaller form factor, a little bit easier for them to hold on to.
Yeah, it could be, and I think another feature with it being a 380, you say you're not a big fan of the 380, but in this all steel gun, it's not going to kick like some of the 380. I mean, sorry, like a Ruger LCP or something like that. It's not gonna be a pain to shoot like some of those. The recoil will be way more manageable versus a 9 or 45 or something like that. So I think it's definitely a good option to get people into shooting without beating their hands to death. Because that tends to be a turnoff for some people.
Yeah, I definitely see where it's going to have probably its market. Its market's just not me.
Yeah. I'm not sure. I think this is based off of the same. It's basically the same gun as their. I think they just call it the 1911-22, which is their scaled down 22 trainer. So I think this is the same gun, just in 380. I'm not entirely sure if the materials are the same. So I think it's got like a aluminum frame. I don't know. Their website is kind of weird and difficult to look at. Doesn't have everything all in one place. It actually took me a little while to find most of the specs, so I'm not entirely sure on all the specs of it, but I think it's got an aluminum frame.
Yeah, and it's only, they say it's only 3 to 5 ounces heavier than most subcompact micro 380s. So it's it's supposedly much lighter than what you would imagine looking at some of these pictures. Some people look at a 1911 and go, well, think it's going to carry the weight like their counterparts do. Their website, Browning.com, and then you go to the 1911 380. They've got actually the 380 model like sitting on top of a ghosted image of the full-size 1911, so it kind of shows you in comparison like how much smaller it is.
Yeah,
And
that's
I
kind of
mean,
what I
pretty
was
much
thinking about earlier.
the features and benefits, they're just bringing up the inherent design features of the 1911 platform that make it more of a joy to shoot, which, I mean, they're Browning. They can certainly use that as their sales pitch, but it's been around. Everyone knows who shot a 1911 and loves it, already knows about all this stuff. You know, the grip angle, um, the trigger in this is just supposed to be a crisp pull. They don't really mention any exact poundage measurements.
Yeah, and it
You know,
looks
the
like it's
ability,
skeletonized too.
yeah, it is. That is kind of a nice feature. It does have a kind of a bobbed commander style hammer, and then they just mentioned that you can carry in condition one, meaning round in the chamber, but and hammerback with safety on.
Here we go. I found on American Rifleman, they have a quick write-up, and they actually list some actual specifications versus Browning's oddly designed website. But it says it's a aluminum reinforced polymer frame. So maybe just kind of like inserts, like Glock does with their, just having inserts into the frame rather than metal. And then the overall length is 7.5 inches. The barrel length is 4.25, and it's a 7-round mag, and it weighs 17.5 ounces, and the MSRP is $670. So yeah, I guess the LCP and all those are around 12, 13 ounces, right? If I remember right, maybe even less.
That sounds
Just
about
for
right.
reference. So I think pretty spot on with their 3 to 5 ounce difference.
Yeah, I think that it's a good thing that Steven noticed that obviously their promotional website, they have a lot of images of women, and this is going to be kind of more strongly geared toward women who want to shoot a 1911 kind of more comfortably and accurately than if they don't have the right stature to be able to handle the recoil forces of 45. Not trying to sound sexist, but
Yeah, we
if
don't want Lil
you
Chantilly to come after you, so.
yeah, right. But if you're shooting 45 and you don't like it, and you're kind of quick to go back to 380s, but you kind of like the design features and the feel of the 1911, I think this is definitely going to have a strong place in the market.
And is it just me, because I'm left-handed? Is that a left-handed safety that it's showing on there?
Yeah, I think it is an
it's
ambi.
Yeah. So that's another cool factor.
Yeah, I didn't even notice that. Us righties don't tend to notice things like that.
No, but us lefties do.
Well, if it's a polymer frame, I can imagine probably toward the holidays they start to maybe do the frame in different colors. I mean, if you're gearing toward women, why don't you just go the full route and make a pink frame? Kidding. Although purple, I'd buy one for my significant other in a heartbeat if it had a purple frame. But
or if they had like a blue, my wife would love the blue one.
Yeah, there you go.
Women like more than pink, right?
Well, yeah, should be easy to disassemble in Duracoat too.
Yeah, actually, I think I did see somewhere. I watched a video, one of the press release videos, I suppose, and it said it disassembles just like any other 1911. So it shouldn't be a problem like some of the other, maybe like the subcompact 1911s are a pain to disassemble from what I hear. But this ought to be exactly spot on the same procedure.
Yeah. Do you think it'll need its own holster and won't be able to fit conventional holsters that are set to government size 1911s?
No, I think it would be very, very, very floppy in one of those holsters.
I'd be afraid it'd fall out because it's so much smaller.
Yeah, like you said, if people go look at that ghost image with the full-size 1911 behind it, they can definitely see that the trigger guard's not even in the same, quite in the same size. So that's usually a good retention area.
Yeah, so they're going to need custom holsters, or at least when this gets released, hopefully holster makers start picking it up and releasing models for it.
Well, they're 22 size. Go ahead. What was that?
Hopefully Forest City Tactical can get something out there.
Oh yeah, there you go. Now their 22 version, I'm pretty sure is the same exact size. So maybe there are some people that have the availability for the holsters already. So that's probably a good thing. I'm not entirely sure what some of the smaller companies that see a 22 1911 and say, I'm going to make a holster for that. So they might not have the molds for it, but it's a possibility.
Well, there's no blue guns for that shape yet, but
Yeah.
I just get a what is that? The Versa carry? Call it good.
Yeah. From what I've heard, no. I actually have one of those that the guy that reviewed it for our site sent me just because he hated it. So he sent it to me. He said, "Here, I don't even want this thing. You can do as you please." And I wasn't impressed with it either.
All right. Well, the next product actually has something to do with the 1911 also, but it's a little different. And when I say a little, I mean a whole lot. It's from Hornady, and it's a primer tube filler, but they decided to make it look like a toy 1911. So it looks like a really crude, bright red plastic 1911 where you pull the trigger and it helps feed your primers into your primer tube for your lock and load press. I'm not sure why they did this. Maybe somebody was probably like reloading and at Hornady, and they're getting their kids involved, and they're like, how can I make their kids running around with a toy gun, and they probably had the brain storm of how can I combine these two things and get my kid to reload all my primer tubes for me. And so they invented this. It's $72. It'll make it easier, I guess, to fill those primer tubes, because definitely doing it one by one is going to be a long, painstaking process. But this way, it's supposedly supposed to make it easier for you.
Yeah, I don't reload, so I've never had to fill primer tubes. So I'm not sure if $75 is or isn't worth the investment to aid that. But it's unique and clever. I like the design of it. It's kind of like what I'm imagining maybe happened is they're trying to design an electronic assisted tube filler, and then it just happened to be the most ergonomic way they could think, and they said, well, if we're going to make it shaped like a gun, might as well make it look like a gun with a hammer and sights and everything, so they did. Basically what it did, to kind of describe it to the listeners, it's got like a real short barrel in air quotes, but other than that, it looks pretty close to a full-size 1911. But on top of it, it has like the primer feed tray, I guess you'd call it, or the primer plate. Not entirely sure what it's called. And so you put your primers in there, flip them all the right direction, and then it's kind of like on top and then to the front of the gun. And then you take the primer tube and put it in the bottom, just kind of almost vertically out the bottom of the slide. And then you just pull the trigger, and it's got a couple batteries in there, and I suppose there's some kind of gear in there that pushes them into the tube. It says it's supposed to load them in 10 to 15 seconds. Load 100 primers in 10 to 15 seconds. So sounds pretty impressive versus doing it one by one.
Definitely a lot easier.
Yeah, if you can get over the gimmicky, it looks like a 1911. It looks like it would be a big hand, and definitely a help in doing that.
Yeah, I think it's just kind of like I said, they tried to make it with, rather than having some kind of they needed some kind of button actuation, and they said, well, what is everybody familiar with? And they said, well, make it look like a 1911, just for the fun of it.
Now, if they could do the same thing with a manual decapper and priming, that would be cool. To like have primed 45 cases fall out of the mag well. That would be interesting.
Yeah, and then you could work on your trigger control, because this looks like you just hold it down and it runs the little gear system inside. That's battery powered, but with the priming tool, you'd have to pull each time to prime those, so you could work a little bit on your trigger control.
My first thought on it was actually like, hey, you can load primers and, like you said, practice your trigger control, and then I realized that it's just basically just an electronic button. So you just pull the trigger once, and it just runs through the whole 100 of them.
Yep. So if you're interested in that, if you've got a lock and load press with primer tubes, go on over to Hornady's website and check those out.
Oh, Ryan.
Go ahead.
Yeah, do you use the type of reloader that would use these primer tubes?
Negative. I have
Okay.
a Lee classic turret press.
Okay, and that just has the tray rather than the tubes.
Yeah.
Okay, I'm curious to see if everybody thinks this is actually worth the money. I'm not sure if there's a similar product out there, and this one just happens to be a gimmicky version of it, or if this is the first of its kind.
Well, I was reading the comments down at the bottom of that page, and there was a guy that mentioned, where'd it go? A Vibra Prime. So I guess there's been stuff like this out there on the market for a while. He said it got really popular because it got pulled from the market for a while. But it's not 1911 shaped. So there are other options out there, I guess. So.
Oh, there you go. Yeah, reloaders are a crafty breed where they'll come up with something that doesn't exist just to shave off a couple minutes on their reloading time.
Yeah, I've joined a reloading group on Facebook that I think it's associated with our reloading podcast, but I don't listen to that yet. And anyways, they definitely do have some interesting contraptions that they work up for certain solutions.
So next up, we actually have a unique edition of the classic Ruger 1022. But this is their take on the takedown model, and I'm going to go ahead and let TJ talk about it because I know he's been drooling over the custom 1022s that are kind of dealer exclusives by Talo for a couple of weeks now. So what do you think, man?
Yeah, this thing, first couple little specs, it's basically a wooden, I think it's walnut 1022 takedown, which I don't think up until now they had a wooden version. And honestly, that was one of my first thoughts when I saw the takedown was they need to make it in wood just because I like the looks of it better. So this is a really nice looking walnut stock with checkering and the big old, probably about 3-inch Ruger emblem engraved into the stock. And then it comes with I'm not sure if this is the standard Ruger carry bag or if it's a special version of it. But
it's a special version.
Yeah, I know it's definitely a different color. They call it or custom Boit canvas takedown case. That's what they call it. So not sure who Boit is, but this is who this case is by. But it's basically your plain 1022 takedown, just dressed up with some nice wood furniture and checkered engraving and the big nice Ruger emblem in the stock. So it's definitely really attractive.
Yeah, it's got an 18 barrel and a gold bead front sight with it too. So just the classic look. It's great.
Yeah. I'm not sure what this. It says Classic 6. I'm not sure what the 6 denotes.
Yeah, I'm not sure either. It's for the 50th year anniversary. Obviously not of the takedown, but of the Ruger 1022 itself.
Right. Yeah. So they're branding all their. I assume this one is the same features, but it seems Ruger's branding all their receivers and their bolts with the laser etch that has the 50th anniversary logo with the with this says Ruger 50th year anniversary or something along those lines. So it's definitely kind of, I guess, a little collector's item almost.
Now, were you able to find an MSRP on this particular one? Because I didn't see that on Talo's website.
No, I didn't see that. I think Ruger might list them on their website. Give me a second and I'll go check it out.
Yeah, and also a good thing to note is that Talo also has other engraved stocks for 1022s, and there are some really nice commemorative ones. There's one with an alligator in the stock that's a really nice engraving, and then for what's that, swamp people that show where they shoot them, they drive around the swamp boats and they shoot alligators with 22s, and that's how they make their livelihood.
Mm-hmm.
So that's kind of sweet. And then they also had one that was kind of more of a farming. I had some wheat grass engraved in the stock, kind of more of a homage to agriculture.
Yeah, those are pretty neat. Their engravings always look great. I don't know who Talo has their engravings done by, or if they have somebody in house that does that, but they all look amazing. I'm not seeing the Classic 6 on Ruger's website, so we don't have a MSRP on that, it looks like.
Okay.
Yeah, and I'm not seeing it on Gallery of Guns, so.
I think back to my question earlier, wondering what the Classic 6 denoted. I think that just happens to be Talos numbering. They had a Classic, and then they had a new one that they called the Classic, so they just put a 2, and now they're up to 6. That's what it looks like.
Okay, yeah, that makes sense. So, yeah, I mean that 1022, I would pick that up if I saw it at the store, like so much faster than the synthetic stock one. I know the synthetic stock is better for all weather, and the takedown is kind of more of a survival rifle, because you can pack it and take it with you when you're on the hike, and it doesn't take up as much room as far as lengthwise. But that walnut, it's hard to beat. Nice grained walnut wood.
Yeah,
So,
it's real good looking.
Yeah, so put it in an order with your dealer if you're interested in one of those. So now we're on to the sponsored product spotlight. So Action Target is the bandwidth sponsor for this podcast. So if you can go to their website, clicking on one of the affiliate links on the Firearms Insider website, we would appreciate that. And then you can use the promo code Radio15 to get 15% off your order, which is a really good deal considering that the steel that Action Target makes is some of the best in the industry, and their prices are pretty good as is, and you take 15% off that, and you're coming out way ahead. And speaking of heads, I wanted to talk about building your own stand and head plate combination. So they have, for $170, they have a number of target heads that you can pick from that are kind of built as cowboy action shooting target heads. So, the competitions are just it's kind of like live action role playing for gun nuts that are a little bit of history buffs too. So basically, you can get a target head that's a buffalo silhouette, a cowboy, all the suits for playing cards. So clubs, diamonds, hearts, spades. You can get a coffin, a tombstone, or just an 18-inch circle, and each one is only $170. So if you have one that you prefer, or if this is for a Valentine's gift, you can just get the heart-shaped one. And then you can pick your own stand to put it on. So they have two stands to choose from. One is just the regular static stand, which is only $30. So it's a really good price. The alternative to that is the Evil Roy practice stand, which is a little bit more money, $95. But there's some inherent advantages to getting that one over the static stand. But the static stand, there's 4 sizes available, so you have to choose if you want it 1 foot, 2, 3, or 4 feet tall. They recommend 3 feet tall for just standard shooting and training. You can go a little bit taller, a little bit shorter, depending on your purpose. And when the 1 foot tall one is that $30 price. And then as you go higher in feet, it adds a little bit extra money. So actually the 4 feet tall one is an extra $35, so that would make it $65. The 3 foot tall one, which they recommend, would be $55, or you can go 2 foot, and that'll be $45. So it's just a really nice stand. Looks like that the feet are not included, and of course the head is not included as well. So you're going to want to make sure that you either have a base system that you can build for this, or pick yourself up some of the PT foot by Action Target, and that's just $15, and they're kind of just cross legs that they're sold as a single unit, and I've actually got these feet on a target, and they work really well. your target's not going to fall over under a heavy recoil. So you add $15 into that, and then you pick which stand you want. The Evil Roy practice stand, that's $95. That actually has feet that's integrated into it. And so you can adjust the angle of those feet, how far they're spread out, and that kind of adjusts your height, which is really nice. So you can set it as high as 3 feet, and you can set it as low as 2 feet tall. And then putting on one of the target heads of your choosing onto kind of like a little gooseneck. It's got the proper angle for deflecting rounds safely away from you, so you don't get hit by any ricochets. It's been created by the famous cowboy action shooter Evil Roy, and he's actually Randy Rogers' grandfather. So if you want to look up some interesting history or some interesting facts on a very talented shooter in the industry, look up Evil Roy.
Yeah, I believe Ryan and Chad interviewed him this week for the Handgun Radio, so you can go hear it straight from him.
Straight from the horse's mouth.
Yep.
Yeah, so basically you can assemble your own stand, and I would recommend getting the Evil Roy stand just because it also folds up. It's got like a built-in carry handle, and the gooseneck and your target head, you don't need to disassemble anything. It can just unlock from a cam, flip upside down, and I think it only makes it about 2 feet tall. And it is going to be naturally heavy with all that steel, but you'll be able to carry that and set it inside the trunk of a car or store it. If you got a lot of these or limited storage space, makes it really easy too. Then you don't have to worry about getting the extra feet and so on. So that's what I would recommend. But make sure you go on to use the store.actiontarget.com, and you can find the bases and the stands under parts and accessories, and then you can find the target heads by going to parts and accessories head plates, and I've got the link for that too in the show notes. So now let's get right into our main panel topic of discussion of our Firearms Insider reviews, and I'm going to go ahead and let TJ go first.
All right. This week I'm going to be talking about the Galco Ankle Light holster, which is their kind of, I suppose, value line of their ankle holsters. So right at 2 years ago, I purchased a Ruger LCB because I wanted a micro-compact semi-auto pistol that I can carry in multiple different carry methods, and just because I like different options when it comes to carry. And of those available options, there's ankle carry. And I don't really advise ankle carry for most situations, but there are some where it just kind of makes sense. One situation might be if you work in a white-collar industry where you have to have business casual, tuck your shirt in every day, and some people say, they make the tuckable holsters, but I just haven't seen those to be quite as friendly to carry. Maybe it works for other people, but it wouldn't work for me. I don't know. But anyways, so if that's your situation, and plus you're probably going to be sitting all day in that situation, so you have a little more access to your ankle, the ankle carry seems to be a pretty attractive option. So when I began looking for ankle holsters, I did a good bit of research, and I'm a relatively frugal person, so my instincts were to go cheap, but while comparing the different brands and models, the Galco ankle glove stood out. And although it is a bit pricey, but I decided, like they say, buy once, cry once. And I like the features of the ankle glove, but they didn't make one for the LCP, so the next available option from them is the Ankle Light, which is the one I'm reviewing. It's less expensive version, but also more universal style. So, but when I say universal, I don't mean just one of these cheap nylon, what do they call them? Just kind of nylon gun sacks that you just throw your gun in. It's definitely not one of those. It's a kind of fitted. It's a thinner leather, I suppose. It's not cheap garbage leather, but it is thinner than, say, like a thick cowhide. But the advantage to that is if you have multiple small options, you can use it between them, which actually worked out in my advantage because I ended up selling my LCP and bought a Car CW380, which actually fits it better than the LCP did. So that was a nice surprise. The construction on it's great. The main part that wraps around your ankle is made of a breathable, stretchable neoprene type material. The closure is the closure is a very large piece of Velcro. It's probably about a 4-inch square of Velcro. So that along with the stretchability make it very adjustable to different leg sizes, so you don't have to worry about if it's going to fit you properly. You can just stretch it a little more or a little less, and then you just have all that area of Velcro that you can put it on. So it advertises that it will fit up to a 13-inch circumference leg, which seems to be pretty big. So if you need that, it's there. The Velcro closure also makes the holster very easy to put on and take off. The strap also has these kind of, like, I guess you'd call it the strap, the part that actually wraps around your leg. It has these dips where it's just if you've seen like most hybrid type holsters, they'll have like a little bump at the bottom to where the barrel of the gun kind of hits that rather than hitting your leg. Well, your hip. Well, this has the same thing. I guess it's to keep the barrel from digging into your ankle. But it also has, it kind of makes it fits perfectly into the dip in my tennis shoes to where, right where your ankle goes. So that way it kind of fits in there, so it keeps it from rotating. So I'm not entirely sure that's intended, but it definitely helps keep it in place. Let's see. The body of the holster is a relatively thin piece of center cut steer hide, which kind of has a suede texture, but it's not suede. Suede's a pretty loose, floppy material, but and then also the mouth of the holster is reinforced with a curved piece of metal that keeps the holster from collapsing. That's covered up by more of that steer hide and stitching, so you don't see the exposed metal to scratch you. But the keeps it from collapsing after the handgun is drawn, and being so that way you can reholster a little better. Being a somewhat universal holster, the body will probably need to be broken in a little bit before use, and the way you do that is to take your empty firearm and shove it in and out a few times, and then as you're doing that, you may want to just kind of twist it around to help break it in a little quicker. And after the break-in, mine fit very well. On the inside of the strap, there, where the body would touch your leg, there's a big, thick, fluffy piece of sheepskin. And this keeps the handgun from digging directly into your calf. It's makes it very comfortable to carry. And actually, I went to a friend's house the other day and fell asleep on his couch and slept that night with that ankle holster on, and it didn't bother me at all. Wouldn't recommend sleeping in it every night, but it wasn't too terrible in the one situation. There's also a very well-designed thumb brake retention strap. A lot of the other holsters have an odd retention strap that snaps or velcros on the outside of the holster, and that means you'll have to pull up to release it and then grab the gun. But the Galco, you get more of a traditional thumb brake, like on most leather outside waistband holsters. So that style allows you to break the snap free in the same motion as grasping the grip. One negative I have about this snap is that the exposed back side of the snap is touching against your leg. So for a few days carrying with it, the snap would catch my leg hairs and rub the skin and irritate me a little bit. It's not enough to cut anything, but it definitely is irritating. The good thing about it is that your skin and hair will eventually get used to it, and it won't bother you anymore. At least that's my experience. Above the snap is a loop for an optional calf strap, and basically the calf strap just goes up and you put it around, I guess kind of after your calf starts to taper again closer to your knee, you put it around that part, and that keeps it, if you have a heavier handgun. I've heard of people carrying maybe like a steel J-frame or a Glock 26 or something along those sizes. Those tend to get a little heavy, but the LCP and the car weren't really heavy enough for me to worry about getting that calf strap, so I didn't buy it, because you do have to buy it separately. Carrying the micro compact 380s is incredibly comfortable with the Galco ankle glove. I carry this regularly, and it does not bother me. And I actually, like I said earlier, slept with it on. Conceals really well. The stretch of the strap actually helps pull. If you put it tight enough, it helps pull the body of the holster along with the firearm very close to your leg, ensuring that it doesn't flop around and print while you're walking. Another reviewer reported that his flopped when moving around, but I didn't notice this. But I also think he had a Glock 26 in it, so that may be part of the consideration. One thing that I would have to note is that you may have to adjust the way you walk a little. If you walk and your feet come too closely together as you're walking, you'll probably start knocking your strong side ankle into the gun, which can get pretty aggravating and painful at times. Let's see. The body of the holster is kind of high for my liking. It puts it closer to like my calf rather than my ankle. But so I'd rather it a little lower, but I can see why they put it there. I imagine if it was any lower, the actual strap that goes around your calf would cause issues with you breaking that thumb snap and then getting a good purchase on the gun. And plus, it probably makes it a little easier in the assembly process to have it a standard height. So it's just a little drawback, but not too terrible. Drawing is very easy. As I mentioned earlier, the thumb brake can be broken in the same motion as getting a full grip on the firearm. The strap doesn't seem to get in the way of a full grip, and while reholstering, the reinforced mouth is very useful as it keeps it open. You'll need to practice clearing your pant leg from over the gun. Just like you would any other carry method, you need to practice with it. But one method I've seen is to take a wide stance with the leg on your firing side far behind you, and then you grab a large handful of your pants leg material right around halfway between the knee and the ankle on the same side as the gun, and you jerk that up, and then that uncovers the gun. Another is to go to one knee with your dominant knee and grab your pant leg with both hands on either side of your leg and pull upward, and both seem to work pretty well, so you'll just need to practice with whichever works for you. If you're looking for a very well-made ankle holster that is comfortable to carry, I would highly recommend the Galco Ankle Light. I would possibly recommend it over the ankle glove because it is thinner and lighter, but I've yet to try that one, so I'll reserve judgment on that. Galco makes models of this holster for tons of different firearms, so you can probably find what you're looking for. So its claim to fame is a lightweight ankle carry. The target market is law enforcement officers and civilian concealed carriers that need a lightweight, discreet way to carry a backup gun or primary in special situations. The features and benefits: premier center cut steer hide construction, retention strap with reinforced thumb brake, metal reinforced mouth for easier holstering, neoprene ankle band with Velcro fastener, fits ankles up to 13 inches in circumference, somewhat universal fit for multiple guns, soft sheepskin padding for added comfort, and the available calf strap. It's on their website. It's only available in black, but I have seen it. Maybe they used to offer a tan version and don't offer it anymore is what I'm assuming, but it seems like you can get it in tan if you shop around a little bit. Other reviewers, let's see, Eric from The Truth About Guns says, the only thing that annoyed me about this ankle light is a bit of floppiness when moving. This led to a bit of sore spot on the inside of my ankle after prolonged wear. The holster drew very well, allowing for a firm, complete grip. And then somebody for the USCCA magazine said, actually looking at my pants leg covering up the LCP and a Galco ankle light, even I can't visually detect it, and I know it's there. So the MSRP on this holster is $78.95 from Galco, but you can go and purchase it from Amazon, and if you do that, definitely use our affiliate links for $63.16. I think I paid a little bit more than that, maybe $2 or $3. It just seems like it was a slightly different price for me, but prices fluctuate. So you can get this from plenty of places like Amazon, as I said, Optics Planet, or directly from Galco. So I have my final score at an 8.5 with the pros of that it's very comfortable. after a short period of getting used to it. It's simple to put on and take off because, like I said, it's just that big Velcro. You can just rip it off real easy or throw it on and real easily. It provides great retention. The thumb brake strap is very well designed. The large Velcro area keeps it secure onto your leg. It's available for many different firearm options. The sheepskin makes it comfortable and breathe. Reinforced mouth to keep the holster open upon reholstering. It holds the gun very close, and the available calf strap option. The cons I had is that your leg needs to get accustomed to it for it to be comfortable. You need to relearn to walk to keep from bumping your dominant leg into the holster. It's a bit pricey, but in my opinion worth it, and that it carries the smaller guns a little high, but I can see where it's necessary, like I said earlier. So the cons kind of definitely outweigh the pros definitely outweigh the cons, so I gave it a 8.5.
Yeah, super thorough review there. And I only had one question though. Is I've never worn an ankle holster, but how is it if you have to move at a faster pace, as far as jogging or running?
Actually, I played laser tag with this holster the other night where I said I slept in it. I played laser tag in it earlier that night, and it didn't flop around too much. I was super paranoid, so every now and then I'd reach down, make sure my gun was still there, or bump it with my other foot to make sure it's still there, and it never fell out. So that was a good experience, good learning experience to know that it's not going to fall off or flop out,
Yeah.
Yeah.
Have you ever tried one, Steven?
No, I've got some friends that are in law enforcement that will wear an ankle holster from time to time, but I've never used one. But I went and looked at it, and it actually comes in a left-handed model, so that's always a good thing. Sometimes hard to find stuff for the lefties.
Yeah, I guess I didn't mention that, so that's a good point. Like I said, we don't always notice those features. But
you need a left and a right hand, and carry two matching pistols on both legs, and then just have one of those Adidas like rip-off working pants. So if you're getting robbed, you can be like, "Hold on, rip."
Yeah, kind of the same concept as the flashbang holsters, right?
Except it doesn't come in a high point. You can't get it for your high point, so.
Oh man.
Damn it.
Something I did find a little odd. They do make it for a Glock 19, which in my opinion is ridiculously large for ankle carry, but I've heard of people that do it, so I guess to each his own.
If you've got those nice big baggy gangster pants,
Yeah, I guess so. I'm not sure. Maybe I just wear my pants a little too tight around my ankles, which I don't wear tight pants, so I don't see where people get away with some of the stuff they do with carry. I've heard of people pocket carrying Glock 19s, and I just don't see it.
Right on. So that's a sweet review. I think is that one of the first ankle holsters on the Firearms Insider?
I believe it is the first that I can recall.
Right on. So this week I actually chose to review one of my favorite scopes that I didn't actually get until just recently. If you've listened to the show, you know I'm a big fan of Vortex optics already, so that should be no surprise to you. But their 1-4 offering is like my favorite scope for an AR-15 of all time. So here it is sitting on top of my AR-15. It is 1-4 power, and it does have the rheostat. So you have 10 different brightness settings, and in between each turn is an off setting, so you can have it set to off in between your desired brightness, and then just one single turn either left or right to get it activated, so you don't have to crank all the way to 11 or all the way to 7 or whatever your preference is. So that's a really nice feature. It is a 30 mil tube, so you're going to have to use some kind of rings, and that's not included, but most everybody who has a Vortex scope already probably has a couple spare 30 mil rings laying around. I happen to use a Burris pepper sight or peeper mount, which kind of puts it in a nice position for me. But I'm a big fan of Vortex scopes because their turrets, at least on the PST Viper line, have really nice tactile scope turrets that, there's an audible click, and it's real nice seals. Everything's marked. You can actually, this scope, let me slow down a little bit. You can tell I'm excited. This comes with the TMCQ reticle, and that's the Tactical Milling Close Quarter reticle, and you can get it in MOA as well as MRAD. And then another option is, obviously this scope has uncapped turrets, so I am free to adjust the turrets whenever I want. They do have a model that's a little bit cheaper, and it has capped turrets. So if you're having this on like a firearm that you're hunting with or getting in and out of a vehicle with, it's really easy for these turrets to get bumped and maybe come off year zero a little bit. So having a capped versions of those would prevent that from happening. The beauty of this scope is that at 1x magnification, you can shoot actually using both eyes open. So it fills the role of a red dot really well, especially with the illumination. I don't know if I'm going to be able to. Yeah, this thing's just too awkward. There's no way I'll be able to get the scope turned around in the camera. I am uploading to my review some photos of the reticle, both lit and unlit. But at 1x, it makes a really nice red dot. It's got a 22 MOA, like thick circle, and then it's got like a really fine dot in the middle. That's got to be, 1.5, 2 MOA in the middle, and those two are what light up. And there's some residual illumination that happens on the dashes, but I'm not sure it's supposed to like cover all of them. So like at night when I turn on the illumination, actually you can't really see your elevation or holdover or your windage very well. It just illuminates kind of the outer thick circle and the middle dot. But like I said, it fills the role of a red dot optic very well. And then you also have the option of rotating it to 4x, and it becomes a pretty nice intermediate scope for shooting, 100 yards or more. And if you're able to get this thing zeroed in and you understand the reticle system that you have, be it minutes of angle or MOA or MRAD, mil dots, then you can fully have the capability of getting out to 200 yards easy. There is dashes on the reticle, and they go all the way down to 30 MOA, both for holdover, hold under, and then your windage holding left or right. So you've got plenty of opportunity to make holdover shots on the fly, and possibly, depending on your rifle, if it's a rifle length barrel or a mid length, you could and you understand the trajectory of your bullet, you can correctly estimate your drop and make pokes out to 200 yards, just depending on if that's something that you're capable of doing yourself. The rifle is certainly capable, or the rifle, of course, 223, 556, or whatever you're putting this on, would be able to reach 600 yards. And this scope at 4 power, you should be able to get close to whatever you're aiming at 600 yards. Will it be MOA? Most definitely, probably not. But it'll still be, if you've got like a 12-inch plate of steel, you should be able to ring it, maybe about 70-80% of the time. And that's all rough hearsay, depending on your abilities as a shooter. Certainly mine aren't all that great, so I'm not trying to talk myself up or anything like that. But this scope is actually a favorite for competitors in 3-gun, where you have to use your carbine for both close range targets and mid-range, and even a little bit of long range. Being able to have a scope that you can switch back and forth, be able to quickly shoot close-up cardboard targets, and then turn up your magnification and take a little bit slower, accurate shots at like steel plates at 100 yards. This optic is perfectly suited for that, I would say. And this does have the Vortex switch view lever on there, which does not come included with the scope. And I will say these switch levers are grossly overpriced. They're like $50, $60. They are nice, but man, they're expensive for just CNC'd metal, that have been finished and have some engraving on them. You can probably find something generic that's cheaper, but they're really expensive. So I'm just going to go through the key points here. So the claim to fame of the Viper PST line, which PST stands for Precision Shooting Tactical Rifle Scopes, boast features associated with top-tier rifle scopes and deliver performance and features tactical shooters demand at an economical price. So the target market for this scope is range shooters, hunters, and three-gun competitors. You could definitely use this for hunting. If you're shooting close range, if you have this on a 300 blackout or a 308 or even a 6.8, for hogs, it'd be a great scope for that. For deer, I wouldn't shoot a deer with this scope past 150 yards. I think 100, I'd be pretty confident. If I set my 0 to 100, I know my 200 is going to be really close, but I still would prefer a little bit larger magnification, if anything, just so I can have a better identification on the animal. But I guess you can have binoculars for that. But you would not be able to tell a 2-point from a 3-point with a 4x scope at 200 yards. You'd get pretty frustrated. Features and benefits of Vortex scope. This is like the exact same specs as previous scopes I've mentioned on the podcast before. The glass is extra low dispersion, so it's supposed to increase resolution and color fidelity, resulting in crisp, sharp images. Basically, the glass is really nice. Some people have compared it to Night Force glass. People that love Night Force and hate Vortex fanboys, they will reject that claim all day. But it's really nice glass for the money. Definitely, I think the phrase "best bang for your buck," I think Vortex really encapsulates that with their products. It's got proprietary coatings on the glass themselves to increase light transmission, with multiple anti-reflective coatings on all their air-to-glass surfaces. There's no easy way to put what I find is for scope caps on this scope. I do know that the Butler Creek makes some that will work, but it's really hard to track down. You're going to have to order it online. I think the eyepiece is like a 14 size, and the objective is like 02A, and they make a couple different sizes in that 02 category, and you're going to want the A one. So hopefully, if you're looking for some, that gets you close. It's got 220 total minutes of adjustment between elevation and windage. So, once you have it zeroed, which is obviously going to take up some minutes of angle, you should have a generous amount if you choose to engage farther targets, either using your reticle or your turret or a combination of both. The field of view, using at 1x at 100 yards, your field of view is 98 yards, so pretty generous, obviously being 1x. At 4x, your field of view is 27.5 feet, and the eye relief is approximately 4 inches, and that's another great benefit to this scope, is having a generous eye relief that aids in a little bit more loose tolerances of your anchor, of your face compared to your rifle. If you're shooting on the move and transitioning, being able to have a fair amount of play in where your eye is relative to that scope, especially if you're a lefty, it's really nice. So I don't have to have my eye way up in the optic like a traditional 3-9 scope. It can be way out here. I have a perfect crisp view, and that's just about 5 inches. So eye relief is really great on these scopes. The reticle is it's actually etched onto the glass, and it's protected between two layers, so you don't have to worry about the reticle getting damaged or getting skewed or anything like that. The illuminated reticle, it's not really bright under low light conditions, so if you're one of those weird people that like to turn up their illumination to 11 and shoot in broad daylight, this isn't going to be one of those scopes like an EOTech turned all the way to the highest setting. It's really meant to help aid you in lower light situations. So if you complain about that, sorry, that's not how it's supposed to work. And then the finish on these scopes, just like all Vortex scopes in the PST line, it's like a really hard scratch-resistant coating that protects the exterior from scratches, oil, and dirt. So the other options, you have either capped or uncapped, and like I said, MOA or MRAD subtensions. As far as what other people are saying, this is Stickman did a review on Vortex.com. I don't know if that's the actual legendary Stickman photographer who takes sweet photos of firearms, or whether it's someone just using his moniker, but he said he bolted this baby on my 20-inch flat top and could not be happier. Zeroed it in and haven't missed a beat in approximately 1,000 rounds. Battery life is good, still on the original battery. Acquiring sight picture while illuminated is quick, in all caps. Reticle is very fine and clear, allowing me to shoot 100-yard MOA groups off the bipod at will. Customer service is stellar at Vortex. Friendly folks on the phone. And then I got another review off of brownells.com, and this is by Jay Crispies. And he says the reticle is easy to use and a great size. While the illumination is not visible in daylight, it does provide a contrast in a situation where the crosshairs would otherwise get blacked out. Perfect illumination for nighttime. I love the CQ part of the reticle, which is, in my humble opinion, better than the solid round EOTech reticle that tends to be too busy for my taste. The glass is very clear, and in fact, in the 1x magnification, it's clearer than some red dots I've used. The 1x is a true 1x. Knobs are easy to grab, adjust, set markings to 0, re-0, etc., etc. Clear markings all around include magnification knob. All around, I can't find anything to complain about, and I expect my next scope will be a higher power Vortex on my 308. Can I give a better endorsement than that? No. So that's one other thing I didn't mention is that the PST line has they call it the CRT zero stop, or no, the CRS zero stop. So you actually take an Allen wrench and unscrew 3 set screws in these turrets, and then lift once you have your scope zeroed first. Zero your scope right where it's, if you want a 200 yard zero, 100 yard zero, or 50 yard zero if you want. Once you have that set, take these 3 set screws out, lift the turret up, and then these scopes come with these kind of brass colored shims that are kind of in a C shape, and you want to start sliding them into the turret on the inside and alternate, the C facing rearward, the C facing forward, or either way, you want them to alternate until you stack them up to where it basically fills up all the extra space in that turret to where you just can't shove another one in there. Really get them tight. So then you take your turret cap and you set it back on there, and you can set it to where the 0 mark, and there's actually a little fiber optic line on the top, is pointing back at you, the shooter. So then once you have that set, you reset your set screws, and you can do that on both the windage and the elevation. And then at that point, you have that CRS zero stop installed. So if you wanted to, do some doping and add some elevation, and then you're done shooting, you want to set it back to 0. You don't have to, oh shoot, I forgot what number my 0 was set at. Oh, I've got to re-zero my whole scope, or go through a bunch of rounds to figure it out. You just crank your scope all the way back until it stops. And I found that there's a little bit of flexibility with that, because depending on how many of those shims you needed and how high your mount is, maybe you didn't have enough shims. And so maybe where it stops goes past your 0, but at least at that point you could know your 0 was actually the number 0 on these markings, and so you went all the way back to say 18 or 19 and it stopped, it wouldn't go any further, then you can back out to 0 and then you know you're done. So I found that pretty handy. Of course, you don't really want to do a 0 stop on your windage and elevate, or your windage, because you may have to, depending on the wind, set that at any time. So I wouldn't really recommend doing that. I would just set the cap back to 0.
Hey, Ron.
Go ahead.
On that review, he mentioned I think he said a CQ reticle. I think is what he said, with the outer ring. What is that?
When he was comparing the EOTech?
Yeah.
Yeah. Actually, I had it on I had my EOTech here on my desk, but I'm back in my. Anyway, the EOTech reticle, they have different reticles, but the more popular one is a 65 MOA circle, and then it's got little tiny crosshairs on the top, bottom, left, and right side on the outside, and then it's got like a 2 MOA dot in the middle, and so people just usually call it the EOTech reticle, but it's meant for CQ, like close quarters. So he's basically comparing another popular manufacturer's reticle where there's a larger circle and then a smaller dot in the middle of that to this one when you have the illumination on. This one's obviously smaller. I think the inside diameter of that thick circle is 18 minutes and the outside diameter is 22 minutes, which means the thickness of that little circle is 4 minutes. I don't know if that means anything to you. But the EOTech circle is actually much, much bigger, so 65 minutes of angle versus 22 on this. So this is finer. And the marks on the reticle themselves, as far as what you have to read, is really thin, really small type. I almost wish that this scope was a second or first focal plane. Right now it's second focal plane, being that zooming in whatever magnification, the marks don't get bigger. Whereas if it was first focal plane, if I went up to 4 times, that reticle would get a little bit larger, and the subtensions would remain the same at no matter the magnification. So that means that when you are using the subtensions on this scope, you want to be in 4 times magnification. They're not going to be true if you're at 2 or 1 at times. So I hope does that explain that to you a little bit?
Yeah, I just wasn't sure how he was saying it was different. So it's just it's that thick ring rather than the thin ring, the thin larger ring with the crosshairs, like you said. So it's just a little simpler, is what he was getting at, huh?
Yeah, it's basically meant so you can you have a circle that's meant to draw your eye right to it right away, and then you can focus on the small dot and where that is on your target. So it's just kind of meant as a tool to give your eye a focal point. So I mean, I have both, and I think for, if I had to, engage a close quarter threat or target or whatever with either using this or an EOTech, I would still choose the EOTech because it's much bigger and brighter, and I think that, I guess it depends on practice. I haven't shot a lot of things close up with this, as far as like 25 yards and less. But if it's 50 yards or farther, the EOTech quickly falls out of favor, because I mean I've gotten okay groups that maybe like 2.5, 3 MOA at 100 yards with the EOTech, but having just a 4 times on this really tightens that up, because you can of course see your target better.
Yeah, they fall into 2 different realms. You've got the EOTech, which is a quick acquisition site, where this Vortex is definitely, it's got a wider range where you can zoom in, so you can really reach out and touch someone a little bit easier, or touch a target easier, versus the EOTech that's not.
Yeah, and you can have an EOTech with a magnifier on it and flip it back and forth, all that tactical nonsense. But this is, I think, it kind of, it's like a Venn diagram. It fits a role, and some of those roles can also coincide with an EOTech. but it also has roles that it fits nicely that it's outside the realm of the EOTech's potential.
Yeah, definitely.
It's got an MSRP of $579. You can get it at retail for under $500. Brownells has it right now for $49.99. So we've got the affiliate link in the show in the review for that. I actually got this scope on a trade with my gunsmith, and if he's listening, thanks, buddy. That was a sweet deal. But yeah, I've always loved these scopes, and I've always put off whether I should get one. I've always been, because they do make a 1:6 too. Of course, now they have the Razor HD, which is way more expensive. But a 1:4 is actually really nice. And for if you have an AR that's maybe only a 60-inch barrel, or even if it's an AR pistol that you still want to be able to make good hits out to 100 yards, you have to get this scope. It's really great. Yeah. So if you need it now, Brownells, or actually most sporting goods stores, they all carry Vortex now. It's become the demand for it has been high enough to where it's almost synonymous with, if a store carries Leupold and Burris and Nikon, chances are they have a Vortex section, and they will probably have this scope in there. It's not quite at Walmart yet, but give it a couple more years. So my rating, I'm giving it a 9, and it's a solid 9. The only negative I have on this scope is just that the illumination does not fully reach the subtension marks. So if you were trying to shoot at low light to 150, 200 yards, it's a little bit more difficult because it's not fully illuminating that whole reticle. I think that's just some residual light. It's really meant to just light the circle and the dot, and I think any illumination on the rest of the reticle for the subtensions is just kind of residual light. It would have been nice if it maybe reached the whole thing, just so I can, if there was a coyote, just at sunset at 150, 200 yards. Well, actually, I would just aim right at it, so I guess that wouldn't be a problem. But say you're trying to shoot something or steal, at sunset or dusk, and it's 500 yards, 600 yards, and you want to use your subtensions for your MOA or MRAD. It'd be nice if you could fully see all those if they picked up a little bit more illumination. But that's my only complaint. It's very minor. As far as my pros, I love the design and the function, and it's perfect for from kind of all lengths of AR-15, from carbine all the way up to rifle. It's lightweight, doesn't add a whole lot of bulk to your sight. The glass is super clear, especially for the price point. Because really, for scopes, once you start paying more money, you're really paying for the extra doodads and the glass quality. And I think you really Vortex gives you a really good quality glass for the price. The ability of the reticle to both serve as a 1x red dot scope for close stuff and capable of mid-range shooting is really good. And of course, it's waterproof and fog-proof and shock-proof. And it's got a great warranty. No questions asked. Lifetime warranty. If you run it over with your truck, as long as they can still tell it was one of theirs, they'll take care of it for you. And great customer service. So that is my review.
Yeah, that's awesome. I actually think I'll pick one of those up eventually. Whenever I get to that point.
I think because being a host of this show and looking at gear before I started getting on this show, if I was to pick one item that I've been kind of hemming and hawing, and not really hemming and hawing, but just procrastinating, like I know I want that item, that product, but I just never got it because of funds or just priorities, this scope would be it, because I've been looking at this scope for definitely a few years, and I just never picked it up until it almost literally fell in my lap, and I love it.
So you'd buy another one, is what you're saying?
yeah, I would. If I were to buy another one, even the 1:6 would be cool to have. I'm waiting for Vortex to start making handgun scopes, because I think that with the technology they've got in this Viper, they'd make some really sweet handgun scopes. So anyway, Let's get right into the Tech Gadget or app, and it's also along the lines of the AR-15. This is definitely a very cool product. It's the Ghost Gunner, and it's a it's a desktop CNC milling machine that you can use to complete an 80% lower, and it's very compact, and you can set it right on your desk, and it'll you can build the infamous ghost guns, the untraceable AR-15 lower receivers that politicians are so worried about.
Yeah.
Like
This
30
thing's
mag
definitely.
clips in under a second.
Yeah.
That's right.
30 caliber magazine clips.
Yeah. Gotta love the
Um,
state of California.
Oh yeah. But I think this is the same guy, Cody Wilson, that originally introduced that Patriot 3D printed pistol. So I guess this is just his next logical step is to make it easier for people to get these 80% lowers. And I think from what it seems to him, it seems like it's more of a proof kind of thing, like, hey, this can be done no matter what your legislation. This is going to happen anyways, which we're seeing right now in the news in Australia. I think earlier a week or two ago, they found all these like hundreds of homemade machine guns in these guys' basements and stuff like that. That's kind of what he's saying is no matter what happens, you're going to be able to build them. And I think he's just trying to prove that to the government. But this is definitely a cool piece of technology. I think it's what is it, 1,200? Is it 1,200 or 1,299?
I saw 999.
Oh really? Okay,
Yeah.
maybe.
Pre-order campaign for the Ghost Gunner will retail for under 1,500 is what the website says.
Okay, so maybe the early birds are 999 and then it goes up or something like that. But anyways, I think it's like it looked pretty compact, like a 1 foot cube CNC mill machine. I think basically you put in your lower, set one drill bit, put in your lower, do one operation, and then I think you probably got to rotate it 90 degrees, and then put a new drill bit and press go again, and it does the second operation. So it seems like it's probably pretty quick. My first thought on it was if you'd be able to use this thing for anything else, if you'd be able to program your own operations into it. Granted, it's a pretty small working area, so you wouldn't be able to do big jobs on it, but I imagine you could do a lot of pretty useful home, things, hobbyist kind of stuff on this thing without breaking the bank on a multi-$1,000 mill.
I think that the range of motion on this is very specific to an AR-15 low receiver, and that's how they got it so low. Whereas, if you wanted to do something crazy like a Ruger 1022 receiver, the range of motion needed for that is not capable in this small platform. You would actually need a bigger mill, or a mill that's got no constraints, that's not proprietary to one design.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's one of the things I saw on it, is it takes a very specific lower. You already have to have the rear takedown pin pocket already milled out.
Okay. Well,
Yeah.
I do imagine, though, with his, I guess, his attitude toward just the people being able to do things, I imagine he's probably got some upgrades and additional features in the works. So this could turn out to be a really cool item to have around.
I'm trying to remember what podcast had him on, and he was talking about eventually adding a water cool feature so that way you can actually start milling out some steel and stuff versus just the aluminum.
Yeah, I think that was Jake had him on one of the last few Gun Guy radios, I believe. It's definitely a pretty interesting interview.
Yeah. So it weighs about 45 pounds, and then it requires software, obviously, which is Windows 7 or higher, and they're still haven't announced a Mac version yet. So I know that me and Jake won't be able to be pumping out lowers anytime soon.
Yeah, me neither.
We're definitely Mac people.
Eat it, Mac guys.
But it's nice because it's contained. So all the aluminum chips and shrapnel and shavings, it all collects in a nice little collection tray. There's no messy lubrication that's required. The machine mills in a manner that contains the heat in the chip load, so you don't need water or anything to cool them down. And the machine is also capable of manufacturing deep pockets due to its vertical gantry, which allows gravity to pull the chips and shavings away from the cutting surface before they can build up and dull the end of the mill, as is with the case with traditional CNC designs. So this is really a cool thing, and I just think that he's got a little bit too much of the intrigue, the political intrigue that he's trying to play off of. They even in the video they show the clip of that. I don't know if it was a senator or governor or mayor of California holding up, an 80% lower and calling it a ghost gun, and it kind of looks like it's the intro or a promo for a show that's like late night History Channel about aliens. Like it's like super dark and showing an empty room that's dark, our dark lit basement with like 4 guys huddled around this little CNC machine and popping in the assembly pins on AR-15s, taking a complete upper and pinning it to one of these unfinished, they're kind of bright stainless or bright aluminum lowers. It kind of leaves like a cool design just from the mill. Obviously if you wanted to finish that out on the outside, you would, but it's kind of raw. I kind of really like it.
I think that's depending on the actual 80% lower you get, because I've done actually a couple 80% myself, and mine came anodized already, so it really depends on what you start with from that.
Yeah, because this doesn't do anything to the outside other than drilling. Well, no, I guess it doesn't even drill. Does it drill the safety hole? I'm not sure. I think that's already done, but I don't think it does anything to the outside of the lower. So this is probably just specific 80% that he had that happens to have that kind of surface finish.
Yeah, the Fully mark's still on it.
Yeah. So the question is, why would you want to manufacture your own AR-15 lower receivers without having to go to the store or order one, go through an FFL, have them do a background check, have it registered to you at that store? Why would you want to skip all that? Because this is the land of the free, and you shouldn't have to, according to the owner, Cody. So, and the fact that AR-15s are such a hot button issue that they're trying to get them banned, and no matter what configuration we put them in, they still see them as a threat. And so being able to basically order all the other parts because they're not serialized or regulated, order them off the internet, have them shipped to your door, and then be able to crank out lower receivers just overnight in your basement. That's kind of the whole point to it. So.
But with the 80% was for my AR pistol, so I was able to build it and just build it as my pistol because I didn't have to wait for that serialized part and everything. So.
Yeah.
It's a good aspect, I guess. The specifications, it shows that the machinable dimensions are 6 3/4 inches by 2.95 inches by 2.35. So I imagine if you have the know-how and the software to do it, I imagine if anything fit within those parameters, you'd be able to program this to mill that out, as long as you have like I said, the tools and the know-how to do that.
Yeah, a lot of CAD, because I'm sure it operates off of a CAD program. So there's a lot of guys out there that are uploading free CAD files for different firearms and stuff, because it's all open source. So. Yeah,
and I'm not sure the state of his other project. What do they call it? DefCAD, I think it was his other project. But they had a bunch of CAD files on that alone, so I imagine these definitely go hand in hand.
Yeah, I think under the frequently asked questions, it talks about a 308, and he said it's able to handle it size-wise, but they haven't started working on a CAD file for it yet.
Oh, okay. Yeah, and I imagine
that would be cool.
Yeah, I imagine we're going to hear a lot of news from him in the next year or so about this Ghost Gunner, because once they get the most popular thing, the AR-15 223 size lower, I'm sure he's going to work on plenty of other stuff, and so will all the other people. Like you said, it's open source, so I'm definitely interested in seeing what comes out of it.
Yeah, me too. So the website for that is ghostgunner.net. So you'll be able to look at that and even pre-order right now if you'd like to.
Yeah, the pre-order price right now is up to $12.99. They're sold out of the cheaper.
Yeah. So actually, add to order.
Well, look, you can order with Bitcoin if that's your thing.
Yeah. Completely off the grid. So there's no listener feedback this week. The podcast that we're still plugging is the Power Factor Show. If you go to www.powerfactorshow.com, they are a very knowledgeable podcast that has to do with the competitive realm of shooting. So training, competing for the shoots, strategies, and improving their scores, and then also the gear associated that you'd want to use. So 3-gun, IPSC, IDPA. Am I missing any?
USPSA.
Thank you, USPSA. They are very knowledgeable and all that. They were super popular before they joined the network, and so since they've joined the network, it's added a really nice caveat to our portfolio of podcasts that's available. So go on over to powerfactorshow.com and give them a listen. Make sure you subscribe and listen to all the other shows on the Firearms Radio Network by going over to www.firearmsradio.tv/iTunes, and be sure to check out all the reviews and future industry coverage on the Firearms Insider website, firearmsinsider.tv, and you can send us questions or comments at podcast@firearmsinsider.tv or myself, cross@firearmsradio.tv. So that's a wrap. Thank you both for joining me on the show. Stephen, you were a great co-host. Thank you for joining the show, and I look forward to getting on the show again in the future and with your own review.
Definitely. Here's something I actually thinking about actually reviewing myself. It is clear and unloaded, but the XD HD sights from Trijicon for the Glock. I love them.
Nice. Yeah. Right on. And TJ, once again, buddy, thanks for joining us on the show.
Yep, it was a good show.
Yep. And actually, last week was the Glock special, and I think a lot of fans liked having a theme-oriented show. So we're not going to do that like all the time, but we're going to try and mix it in there, just because it's kind of helps me when in choosing products to talk about on the show, because it's all about one theme, and I can kind of choose so it's kind of more of a well-rounded episode. So in the spirit of fall and the harvest and the spirit of the great outdoors, we're going to do hunting specials. I think it's going to be a multi-part. So I think next week's going to be part 1, and there'll be a part 2. I don't know if it's going to go on to another podcast for 3 parts. But next week, the hunting special starts, so stay tuned for that. That should be a good one as well.
I'm just thankful you didn't do a zombie episode this time.
I will never do a zombie episode. I promise you that right here and now.
Yeah, we would have plenty of content, but wouldn't want to sell out like that. Huh?
Yeah, we've got high standards and too much integrity. So anyway, thanks to you both for joining me. To the listeners out there, shoot safe this week. Have fun, and I will catch you on the next episode. Later.
See you, Ryan.
See ya.